In this audio clip, I hear the birds chirping and wind rustling through the trees. It makes me think of the forests around Ontario where I grew up. A spring day where the leaves are rustling, the wind is blowing, and the birds are chirping. Let's follow the story of this little seedling, ready to take the leaf off of its mother and be dispersed by wind to grow on its own. The seedling takes its place. It sets up camp in a good spot near a decaying log. This should provide plenty of nutrients to help with its growth. Let's check in on it in a few springs later. Here's our seedling, not looking like such a tiny guy anymore after 10 seasons of growth. This seedling has created a niche within the ecosystem for other species, like this robin who set up her nest on the tree's branches. It's amazing how one small seed can transform into a towering tree, shaping the world around it. This once fragile sprout now provides shelter, food, and stability for countless organisms. The robin, safe among its branches, is just one of many species that rely on this tree. Insects burrow into its bark, fungi break down its fallen leaves, and squirrels gather its seeds for winter. What has allowed this little seed to grow so big while we've been gone? Let's dive deeper. Meet the humble earthworm. This guy does some super important stuff for the ecosystem that has allowed our little tree to grow. Worms decompose organic matter, enrich the soil, and create tunnels that improve water and oxygen flow, directly benefiting plant growth. This makes them critical for nutrient cycling and soil health. For example, decomposers would have been involved in breaking down that little log that our seedling initially landed beside. This process is part of nutrient cycling, a natural recycling system that keeps forests thriving. What was once a towering tree has now become a life force for our little seedling. And the white stuff all over the roots? That's the mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae create an intricate network within the soil, often called the wood wide web. As our seedling began to sprout all those years ago, its tiny roots would have reached into the soil looking for water and nutrients, and it would have encountered mycorrhizae, which would have formed a partnership with it and had a mutualistic relationship that would shape its entire life. These thread-like fungal structures, called hyphae, wrapped around the roots and even penetrated inside of them, extending far beyond where the seedling's roots alone could reach. The fungi get essential nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen from the soil, passing them to the seedling in exchange for nutrients produced through photosynthesis. But this underground alliance was more than just a nutrient exchange, it was a connection to something much larger. As the seedling grew, the mycorrhizal fungi linked it to trees around it, creating an invisible web of communication. Through this network, the seedlings received help from older, more established trees, often called the mother trees, which sent extra carbon and nutrients through the fungal threads to support younger or weaker plants. From a two-eyed seeing perspective, Western science describes this network in terms of biochemistry and resource exchange, but indigenous knowledge has long recognized that the trees form relationships, care for each other, and communicate. In Mi'kmaq teachings, forests are not just collections of individual trees, but a community of relatives, each supporting the others in an unbroken cycle of life. This perspective aligns closely with modern ecological discoveries, what we now call the Wood Wide Web. Indigenous cultures have long understood as the connectedness of all life. So now that we understand some of the relationships our seed has with the world around it that have helped it grow, let's dive into some of the ways it gives back to the ecosystem that supported it. Now standing tall, our once tiny seedling has become a vital part of the forest. Its leaves absorb carbon and release oxygen, helping to regulate the air we breathe. Its roots stabilize the soil, preventing erosion and keeping the forest floor rich and healthy. But its impact doesn't stop there. The tree provides shelter and food. Its branches cradle a robin's nest. The sturdy limbs offer a safe, elevated space, protecting the delicate eggs from predators like raccoons and snakes. The tree's leaves provide shade, regulating the temperature of the nest and shielding it from harsh winds and rain. In turn, the robin plays a role in the tree's ecosystem. As it forages, it may disperse seeds and berries it eats, helping new plants like it take root. When the robin leaves its nest, other creatures like insects, small mammals, or even fungi may recycle the abandoned materials, continuing the cycle of energy transfer in the forest. And even in death, when our seedling now turned tree eventually falls, it will continue to nourish the next generation, just like the decaying log that once helped it grow. This tree is more than just an individual organism. It is a lifeline for the ecosystem, deeply connected to the world around it.